Hello guys, in this video I'm going to teach you guys about the for loops. So we use the for loops in order to iterate over something for a particular amount of time. So let me type the structure of the for loop. You type the keyword for, parentheses, and curly braces. So this is the structure of the for loop. Inside this for loop, you give this for loop three different values. The first value is the one that you set when you enter the for loop. So what I mean is, let's say let I equals to 0. So we know that our code starts from the top and goes down one by one. When it comes to this for loop, it will see this argument and it will set I to be 0. And when this for loop is done, you cannot access to that variable. So this variable is being set specifically for this for loop. Inside this for loop, you can access that variable I, but outside of it, you cannot. And the first value is this, you set a variable. So let's put the second space of this for loop, which is your condition. Kind of like the if-else statements. You put a condition, and if that condition is true, you iterate over this for loop. So let's say I is less than 5. So every time when the I is less than 5, we will iterate over this for loop. And the third condition, which is I plus plus. So we generally put I plus plus in here, and you can put anything. And this third space, this third value is that what you want your for loop to do in every iteration. So on every iteration, we want our for loop to increase I by 1. So it will go like this. Our code starts from here, it reaches this for loop, and then it will set I to be 0. Okay. Then it will check for the condition. I is less than 5, which is true. Yeah, it's true. Then when you first enter this for loop, you are not gonna execute this third statement in here. You are gonna execute this afterwards. Okay, so we set I to be 0, we check for the condition, they both are true. We enter the for loop, we execute the command inside. Let me put console.log I for clarification. Okay, as you can see, it prints out. So I is less than 5, we execute the command. So this is the first iteration of the for loop. And then we come back to the beginning of this for loop. Then what we do is we execute this statement, this third statement. As I said, we execute it on every iteration. So we have completed an iteration and we are going to execute this statement. I plus plus. As you know, I plus plus is the same thing as increasing I by 1. So we increase I by 1. Now I is equals to 1. And pay attention that we no longer execute this statement. We just execute it once and that's all. Okay, I is currently equals to 1. Then we check for the condition again. 1 is less than 5, true. We execute the code inside this for loop. Then we come back again. We increase I by 1, which makes I is equals to 2. We check for the condition. Both are fine. We execute the command. Then we come back. I is equals to 3. Condition is true. We execute the code. Then we come back. I is equals to 4. We check for the condition. True. We execute the command inside this for loop. And then we come back again to the beginning of this for loop. We increase I by 1. So I is now equals to 5. Then we check the condition. 5 is not less than 5. So this will be false. And then, therefore, we are going to get out of this for loop. So we no longer execute the command inside this for loop. It is done. We continue our code like this. So that's basically the idea of the for loop. And let me ask you a question. What would happen if I put true in here? So in every iteration, we increase I by 1. However, our condition is always true, meaning that this is an infinite loop, which is the case. Actually, this is an infinite loop. And I don't want to run this code because there is two outcomes. One is that my code will crash, or my program will detect there is an infinite loop and end the code. Second, it will run infinitely and exhaust my memory and stuff so that my computer will slow down. Therefore, I'm not gonna run this code. Okay, so that's basically the idea of this for loop. You put the first part of the for loop is where you what let's say the first part of the for loop is variable declaration. You can name it like that. We create a variable in here. It's not a must, by the way. You can create I in here and say this. So you can also do this. This is also valid. You don't need to actually create a variable inside here, but it's just how we do things. I mean, it's common and nearly everybody uses I because it stands for iteration, and nearly everybody puts let I equals to something, or at least once. I mean, this is very common. Use it. And the condition, you can put whatever you want, and you can also put like and in here too. Let's say I is more than -1. You can also put or. Let's say I is equals to 1 and stuff. You can put anything you want. The what matters is that the overall condition. If it is true, you continue the for loop. If it's false, you left the for loop. That's it. So let's say, oops, okay. And the third part is what you are going to do in every iteration. And pay attention that I use this these semicolons, because it's what you need to use. You cannot use commas in here. You need to use semicolons because that's the structure that it was coded, and you need to use the correct syntax, correct structure for it. So that's basically it for this video. If you have any question, please leave a comment. Have a great day.